All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the February 24th hearings of the Environment Transportation Committee. I'm the Vice Chair, Dana Stein, sitting in for our Chair, Kumar Barve, who's been called away to another meeting. So we have 4 bills on our hearing schedule for today, and we'll start off with House Bill 475. Delegate Clark will make the presentation. House Bill 870, House Bill 925, and then House Bill 1066. And the good news for the committee is that we get a reprieve from today from a long hearing day. I think there are just 7 witnesses. So we'll be done. I don't want to jinx ourselves, but should be done pretty fast. And just a reminder, so the presenters who are the sponsors have 4 minutes, and all other witnesses have 2 minutes. So with that, I'd like to ask Delegate Clark to present on House Bill 475.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. For the record, Delegate Jerry Clark, St. Mary's in Calvert County, and I'm presenting to you HB 475. It's a St. Mary's County local bill, and it's an exception for golf carts. With the successful approval of golf cart use at Golden Beach in St. Mary's County, many rural areas found this law beneficial to the citizens of these communities. In this reintroduction bill from 2021, St. Mary's County would like to expand the ability, but want to avoid petitions, many petitions to the legislature and tying up committee time by putting in multiple bills for each community requesting this permission. This bill is enabling legislation. It would only give the county the ability to grant this permission in certain circumstances. Therefore, this bill, the Board of County Commissioners of St. Mary's County requests to designate certain county roads golf cart zones. This designation would be on roads which a maximum speed limit does not exceed 35 miles an hour during the hours between dawn and dusk, require golf carts be equipped with lighting devices as required by the administration, and require golf carts be operated as far to the right of the roadway as feasible, and require golf cart operators possess a valid driver's license. And the purpose of this, again, is so that they don't have to continually keep coming back per small communities that would like this designation. And this would just give them the ability under these guidelines to be able to allow it in these communities. The folks that are familiar with St. Mary's County know there's a lot of small beach communities that are on the river and the bay that don't have real major thoroughfares that go through it. And it tends to give them the ability to jump in a golf cart and run to the little locally owned grocery store, or carry out to get a pizza or a sandwich and things like that. And it takes some of the gas guzzling cars off the road and gives them the ability to move around in a more friendly type of vehicle. And I would hope for a quick approval of this. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Delegate Clark. And since all the other testimony is written, we'll go to questions, and Delegate Jacobs has his hand up. So Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate Stein. Delegate Clark, none of these areas the golf carts would be crossing any state roads. Is that correct?
No, sir, you're correct. They would all be small county roads in these old beachfront or communities, small communities.
So I mean, that's one of the big issues with golf cart legislation, that we're definitely not crossing a state highway.
No, it specifically designates that, and that not be state roads.
And so these golf carts would be fitted with the appropriate lighting, et cetera.
Yes, sir.
That's under previously approved golf cart legislation.
Yes, sir.
And they would have to have a Maryland driver's license as well.
Yes, sir.
And they'd be taking the place of some of these vehicles that are smoking up the environment. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Well, it sounds like a reasonable piece of legislation. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, Delegate Lehman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Delegate Clark. I think you just answered my question. Did you say that folks who drive golf carts have to be licensed drivers in Maryland?
Most definitely. They have to possess a valid driver's license.
Okay. And they're supposed to carry it with them then when they drive the golf cart?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you very much. And there are no more questions. So Jerry, thank you very much. That ends the bill hearing for House Bill 475.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Sure. Next, we'll move to House Bill 870, Delegate Foley.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. For the record, I'm Delegate Linda Foley, and I'm presenting HB 870, Vehicle Towing or Removal Secured Parties Electronic Notification. This is a very simple and straightforward bill. This bill requires a person who undertakes the towing or removal of a vehicle from a parking lot to notify any secured party electronically if that form notice is agreed to by the tower and the secured party. Currently, that notification is only allowed in writing. And all that this does is it just allows the opportunity for, if the parties agree, that they can do the notification electronically, i.e. by email. This benefits both towers and people who get towed. The only other thing I'll say is we're in the 21st century, and so it's only fair that electronic notification of a lien be available, just as other forms of communication are already electronic throughout our lives. So I urge a favorable report on HB 870. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll go to Andrea Mansfield.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. Andrea Mansfield here today representing the Towing and Recovery Professionals of Maryland. And actually really want to thank Delegate Foley for sponsoring this bill. She did a great job describing it. I would agree. I think it is fairly simple. It provides for the electronic notification for the secured party. Other entities that need to be notified, which include the owner of the vehicle as well as the insurer of the vehicle, they would still need to be notified through the three forms in writing, which is certified, registered, and through the regular mail. But for the secured party, because the towing companies do have access to their information electronically, the bill would allow for that process to occur, so they can notify them electronically. Also wanted to mention that we have talked to the Bankers Association about the bill. They do not have any concerns. We worked with them on the language, and they are in agreement with the language and do not have concerns with the bill. With that, we would urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next, Charles Parrish.
Good afternoon to you all, and thank you. I also want to thank Delegate Foley for a great job in explaining the bill and working on this bill. I am the legislative chairman for the Towing Recovery Professionals of Maryland. And through my 30 years, we've had to do it by certified mail. Over the last 2 years, I have been experimenting with the electronic notification via email, as well as sending out the letter. I've noticed that I've gotten quicker responses from the finance companies, from 30 to 45 days quicker, which benefits them and also benefits the tower because it clears our lots out. And it also keeps their bill very low. I'm notifying them on the second day, and they're responding to me by the third and fourth day. When I'm doing the same time sending out the letter, I'm still getting letters from August that were mailed out, and they're just now receiving them. So I mean, nothing against post office, but I would hope that this bill does get a favorable review. And I thank you, and I thank Delegate Foley.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for the sponsor or the witnesses? All right, seeing none, thank you very much, Delegate Foley. That ends the bill hearing for House Bill 870. Next, we'll move to House Bill 925, Delegate Parrott. Neil, you were on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. I'm a passenger in a car. I'm not driving, so everybody knows. I appreciate the chance to be able to present this bill. I do have a PowerPoint. Can I share the screen?
No.
Ben, can Delegate Parrott do that?
I should have just enabled it. You should be able to now.
Okay.
Great. Can everyone see it?
Yes.
So this is House Bill 925. It's battery backup for traffic signals. And it's actually appropriate that I'm driving because we see different signals wherever you go. Here's just one example of one. And the problem that happens is when the electricity goes out, these signals go dark. And sometimes when the electricity goes out, it'll just start flashing until someone gets there to fix it. And this bill would take care of that. Howard County has been doing this since about 2006. In 2006, two teenagers, Scott Kaplan and Teresa Howard, were killed in a crash at a Howard County intersection, and the traffic signal had been dark for at least 45 minutes. Had it not been dark, this fatal crash would not have occurred. Of course, as a result of the crash, Howard County mandated that all traffic signals in the county, this is county signals and state highway signals, will be equipped with batteries to operate the signal in case the electricity goes out. So what this bill would do is, over time, upgrade all traffic control so we'd have battery backup. To do that, you have to have the lower energy taking LED signal heads. So this program would replace old signals, they're using incandescent bulbs, with LED bulbs. And this bill establishes a way to pay for this. It's the Traffic Control Signal Modernization Fund, which comes from 10% of the red light running camera tickets that are given out. Of course, the benefits of the LED signals are they're greener, more energy efficient. They don't go out nearly as often, so you're gonna have a lot less headache with maintenance. And of course, if you have the battery backup during power outages, the signals still operate. And this allows police officers to focus on other things. Like in a hurricane, they need to have people getting rescued or taken care of. But now a lot of them have to be at traffic signals. This would get rid of that need completely. Of course, LED lights, they've been implemented at 95% of the state highway controlled intersections already. So that's LED, not battery backup. But we would need to do this in the city of Baltimore, municipal intersections. There's significantly less percentage using the LEDs. Current battery backup is implemented by the state highway, but on a very limited basis. It's only used on a risk base. And 30% of the Maryland intersections have battery backup. But that includes Howard County, where all of them have to, and of course, Anne Arundel County also, which has a good battery backup program. This is just a list of some places that have it. Different cities of California, the whole city is covered. Anne Arundel, Howard counties, of course, Scottsdale, Arizona. And this list is a lot longer than this. These are just a few places. Obviously, the benefits of this bill, there'd be significantly lower electricity cost over time because we're replacing the incandescent bulbs, the LED bulbs, lower maintenance costs. The police don't need to be involved as much when the signals, because they're not going to go out during power outages. And this will increase safety. And this is the big reason for the bill. And that's why you have the red light running camera as well. That the goal is to increase safety, reduce fatalities. I believe this is well worth the investment. We'd be the first whole state that would implement this program. We join a lot of large cities, but we'd be the first whole state. It would bring our signals into the 21st century. And there's really, with battery backup, there's no excuse for allowing this hazardous condition where the signals go dark. And this would take care of that in Maryland. So I'd ask that the committee would please vote favorably on House Bill 925, and I'd like to open it up for questions.
Okay, thank you, Delegate. Since all the other testimony is written, we will go to questions. And Delegate Lehman.
Thank you, Vice Chair Stein, and thank you, Delegate Parrott. This is a really interesting bill. I was not aware of that tragedy of the two residents or two motorists in Howard County. It does seem totally avoidable. So curious about two quick things regarding cost. I think it's a great idea to take red light camera revenue. How many years do you expect it to take to phase this in statewide? Do you specify that in the bill? And then my second question is around the cost. Are you, besides identifying the source of funding, the red light camera revenue, are you specifying in this first year or in the out years what this will cost roughly? Or are you mandating like that the governor, fund it at a certain level?
I think
The question is that the bill will be implemented over time as we have the money brought in with the signal cameras, the red light running cameras. I'm looking through the bill and it talks about priorities. But the top priority would be, traffic control signals,
Neil, you're
municipalities, except for Baltimore City and the.
Hey, Neil,
Maybe he should turn off his camera, Mr.
Neil,
Vice
you're
Chair.
cutting in and out, so maybe why don't you turn off your video?
Okay,
It might be smoother.
great. Is this better?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you. Good idea. So there are priorities on which signals would get this money first. The first priority being traffic control signals on highways that are maintained by municipalities, except for the city of Baltimore, because the city's a lot larger. So we get these smaller municipalities done first. The second priority would be traffic signals at the intersection of highways maintained by the counties and the city of Baltimore. And the third one would be those that are on state highways. And this would take time. I would envision this would probably be about a 10-year project before it's totally done. But over this time, we'd use these funds to be able to get these signals upgraded.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that answer and thank you for the bill.
Thank you, Mary. Delegate Lehman.
Next, Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you. Delegate Parrott, did you read the letter from MDOT?
Probably had the letter. I haven't read it in detail yet, though.
Well, it says, not a long letter, a short letter, but it says that MDOT SHA estimates an additional $100 million would be needed for those 2,500 signal upgrades. That's why I was wondering if you read that. It seems like an awful high number for 2,500 upgrades. That's why I was wondering if you had any comment on that.
That seems way too high. I'm looking at the fiscal note. Which I think needs to be updated. It looks like it's just 2021 fiscal note at this point. So it's the old fiscal note. I think the new one will better reflect the situation. And one thing that we're going to change, there's a suggestion we had from, I believe, one of the municipalities that said that instead of the red light running camera tickets that are assessed, it should only be those red light running camera ticket revenue that's received. And we agree with that. So that will be part of the amendment. We certainly don't want to be charging 10% of something that no one ever got. So it's really the received. That's the point.
All right.
And I look forward to seeing the new fiscal note because I agree that's way too high. I don't believe that's accurate.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Delegate Amprey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Delegate Parrott, for bringing this bill forward. I think it is a great idea. My concern, which I think everyone's kind of highlighted, is the cost associated with it. Wanted to get an idea of what does if the idea here is to use money from red lights, camera offenses, where does that money currently go? So where are we robbing Peter to pay Paul? And where is that money coming from? That's my worry right now. Is it where does that money currently go? And how would this bill affect that?
And Delegate Amprey, that's a great question. So it's 10%. So it's not taking the vast majority of the funds that are coming in. But the money right now, so let's say it's the city of Frederick. if they charge the red light running cameras, typically that money goes to fund their police department. So it's going to the police department, at least in the city of Frederick, that's what I'm most familiar with. But I think that's pretty standard across the state, that they're implementing these red light running camera tickets, and then the money's going to the police departments to do other activities. And this would help, since the goal is safety with that whole program, this would help improve directly signals across the state of Maryland. Really, this is one of the things that we could do that would help us to be safest, is to make sure the signals don't go out.
Yeah, I agree. And then one follow-up question, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Trying to get so I think the other question I have, what I always ask is, how much does it cost? And then what's I think that you argued that it would be more green if we had more of these LED lights and the battery backup. What would be, do you have any analysis on the cost savings over time by us using this more green format?
Neil, are you there?
I'm here now. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, I missed the end of that question.
I was just asking, what do you have any idea on what the savings over time would be once we move to a more green format with the LED light?
So for that, I would look to the fiscal note from last year, and there is significant savings over time. They're saying about $300,000 for each signal over time is what they have in the. That's considerable. Because of course it saves electricity, but it also saves maintenance costs.
Right, and help our environment. Yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Delegate Perry. That helps me better understand the bill. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, Delegate Terraza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry about that. I keep having my pointer on a different screen and it takes a second. First of all, let me thank you for putting this legislation in. Scott Kaplan's father is a friend of mine, and that has been a devastating loss for that family. And it has been worked wonders to have that those backup cameras in the county. I'm like skimming through this fiscal note and watching you kind of flip through and trying to understand, because I am a little concerned along the lines of Delegate Ampry about the current use of those funds. I thought they were used in Howard County, I could be wrong, for traffic safety improvement. I could be wrong about that though. It's been a few years since I've been in the county government. And I wouldn't want us to be cutting out those funds from where they are now. And I'm wondering what portion of this, I hear that you said that it's going to save money over time, but if the priority is to make these safer, what part of this is changing the lights over to battery backup, and what part of it is changing over to LED? Do you know which part of the that 100 million of the 100 million, if we just were to go to battery backup, how much that would cost, or would that reduce it significantly? I'd like us to find a way to do these battery backups, because if it saves your child's life, I don't mean yours particularly, but anyone's child's life, I think it's important. And that was such a tragic accident that really shook our community.
Well, great question. I'm sorry to hear that was a friend of yours, because it was tragic. And I really do appreciate what Howard County, they jumped on it right away. You may have been there at the time, and they took great proactive action. And who knows how many lives they've saved in Howard County by what they did at the time. As far as the costs go, I don't know what percentage goes to LEDs versus the batteries. I'd imagine that most of that cost is towards the batteries.
I'm wondering if you could find that information out for us, and whether that would reduce the fiscal note. Not that I object whatsoever to us making our lights more environmentally friendly. at all, or over time saving costs. Sort of an odd way for us to be having this conversation, but I think the priority from my perspective needs to be safety after our community went through that. I wasn't yet on the council, but I was soon after, and I know it was Ken Ullman's effort to get those battery backups. I think along with now Senator Guy Gazzoni, who made that happen. But it's just something no community wants to go through. So I'd really like to see if we can figure this out without taking money out of traffic safety or police departments, and but make people safe.
Yeah, it's a good question as to which percentage goes. The reason the LEDs are in the bill is because you can't have a battery backup unless the controls are LEDs.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. That's where the rub is. Okay, I didn't understand that. That's very helpful. Okay, well, I'd like to figure out a way to do this.
Thank you.
Okay, Delegate Jacobs. Oh, okay.
I forgot to pull my hand down earlier.
No problem. Delegate Lehman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, and thank you again for the further explanation, Delegate Parrott. I just want to comment quickly. I believe, and I can double check this, but when I've talked in the past to Mayor Craig Moe with the city of Laurel, that he commented, because the city has a lot of speed cameras and red light cameras all through the city. And, they get a fair amount of complaints from motorists who are grumpy when they get these citations. And he said, look, we put this money all back into related road safety issues, crosswalks, signals, road striping, sidewalks. I'm not going to apologize for that. So I understand a little bit of Delegate Terrazza's concern, but I think it's all, my understanding is these revenues are all being put toward very related things to improve safety the whole way around for motorists and pedestrians. And to me, it makes sense. So that's all, Mr. Chairman or Vice Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Delegate Foley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Delegate Parrott, thank you. I want to add my gratitude for your bringing forward this bill. I think this is a really good idea, and I think it would be very, very beneficial to the state drivers to have this. My question is, so I appreciate that the bill has priorities in terms of the order in which these changes are going to be made. But how do you envision the money being spent? So, for example, do you as soon as money's available that they're going to do it like in real time? Because there's a lot of money, right, that it's going to take, according to the fiscal note, it's going to take $100 million to do all of the lights. But do you envision the money doing it on a rolling basis or accumulating a certain amount of money in the fund and then starting to work on several areas at once? What do you envision? How do you envision that happening?
Yeah, that's a great question. The bill itself kind of leaves it up to, I think it's the State Highway Administration to administer the program. And I would envision they would do it kind of like their sidewalk retrofit program, where every year people, different municipalities come in and they apply to get the money, whatever's in that money at the time, they can get it. I think that's how I'd see it happening.
Okay, great. Thank you. And one more question, if I could, Mr. Vice Chair. Sure. The bill also does allow for allocation of state budget money to go into the fund. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but do you then envision, when do you envision that happening, or is that just an option?
Yeah, that's just an option. So they could, if the legislature would prefer to make this go faster, then they could. Or if not, it would just be the 10% for the red light running camera tickets, and just however much time that would take.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Delegate Healy.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I got here a little bit late, so I missed some of the presentation. But my question is about, from just the discussion we heard now, about how one, I believe that the original bill that allowed this required that the money be spent on something related to law enforcement or traffic control or something definitely related to traffic safety. And but my question about this is about whether the money would go back to the jurisdiction where the camera was. In other words, if it's in New Carrollton or if it's in Silver Spring, I mean, it makes a difference if they're putting the cameras up and maintaining them and all that. Wouldn't that be where the money should go first?
That's a good question, and that's not a priority in the bill, but that's something that we could add in. It would seem to make sense. Those who are getting the revenue would have it in their areas first. I do know that the municipalities are the top priority. So those municipalities you just mentioned, they would be the first ones to be able to get their signals upgraded to battery backup.
Okay, well, it's interesting. I'll look forward to working on it. And I thank you for thinking of it. I think it's a good idea.
Thank you.
Delegate Lehman, your hand is up. Is that from before? Okay, and Delegate Foley as well. Or did you have another question? Oh, you're good. Okay. All right, there are no further questions. Thank you very much, Delegate Parrott. That ends the bill hearing for House Bill 925. Next, we'll move on to last bill of the day, House Bill 1066. I am the sponsor, so I will give my brief testimony. This bill deals with allowing white lights to be added to the vehicles of volunteers who are fire police. Fire police are fire department members that assist the local power company with traffic control. They also report to the local sheriff. They can be called upon to assist with many different emergencies, from traffic control to looking for lost people. Right now, the volunteers on their vehicles can only have red lights. They can blend into the background of the emergency scene somewhat with having only red lights. So by adding white lights, these volunteers, the fire police, feel there is a better margin of safety. So with that, I'll urge a favorable report, and then I will call on Benjamin Kurtz to present.
Thank you,
And
Mr.
Neil, if you wouldn't mind, stop sharing your screen. But Mr. Kurtz, if you want to go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Good afternoon, members of the Environmental Committee, Environmental and Transportation Committee. My name is Ben Kurtz. I'm first Vice President of the Maryland State Firemen's Association, and I'm here to testify in favor of House Bill 1066, sponsored by your Vice Chair, Delegate Stein. The bill concerning vehicle laws lighting privately owned vehicles of the volunteer fire company members. Fire laws under the section Transportation TR 22-218 allow certain members of a volunteer fire company to equip their privately owned vehicles with red lights or signal devices, and generally related to vehicle lighting and volunteer fire companies. This bill allows the members to use red or red and white on emergency scenes. The red and white lights are much safer for our members, especially the fire police directing traffic on the scene of an emergency incident. Thank you for your time and energy on this bill, and I'm asking each of you for your support. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for me or for Mr. Kurtz? Delegate Jacobs.
Yes, sir. I have a couple of questions. Are these lights being displayed only when you're on the scene acting in the role of fire police, or are you asking that they be on there all the time? Not necessarily turned on, but I mean, I know this issue's come up before. That's the reason why I was asking. Are these, like, I guess, lights that get put in place on the scene, or are they on there all the time?
Delegate Jacobs, for the fire police, they cannot run those lights
responding to a scene.
Right.
Once they arrive and they're at an intersection or at an entrance of an emergency incident, that's when they activate their lights.
Yeah, and that's always been the controversy is they've asked for 10 years or more, they've asked about putting these lights on and when to use them when they're responding, and it's always been a problem. That's the reason why I was asking that question. I understand at the scene, absolutely. But I just wanted to make certain that they're not being used while responding to the scene is my point of the question.
Correct. And fire police are not allowed to respond with their emergency lights responding.
Right.
Only
Right.
after their
Right.
arrival.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And my second question is, Delegate Stein, did you run this by the EMS caucus or not?
Actually, I did not.
Okay, thank
I
you.
should have, but I did not.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and I think our chairman has joined us.
Mr. Chairman, you need to unmute.
Yeah, okay, great. Where are we? Are we through the whole public hearing? Where are we?
Yes, just last bill, and Delegate Foley has a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is for the Vice Chairman. My understanding is that the law already allows for the red lights to be on the vehicles and be used on the vehicles. And all that this does is add the white lights. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is this a bill from last year, Dana?
No, it's actually,
Okay. It looks familiar for some reason. Okay. Any further questions on this bill? Has everyone testified who needs to testify?
yes.
Okay, well, unlucky me. I missed a whole public hearing. Okay, that ends the public hearing on House Bill 1066, which is the year that Norman the Conqueror invaded England, by the way. In any case, announcement.
And Bob Enton was probably running around back then too.
Oh, brutal, brutal. Okay, all right. Announcements. Committee chair announcements.
I have an announcement, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Dave. Yes, go ahead.
We will do motor vehicle at 2:00.
2:00. Okay. Any other subcommittees meeting today? Ann.
I'm just announcing that we're not meeting, even though this is our regular time. We don't have any business yet. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else meeting today? No? Okay. Well, I'd like to have my leadership group meet at 4:00. Okay. Is that good with you guys? Trish, we're going to meet at 4:00. The leadership group. The leadership group is going to meet at 4:00. Okay. And does anybody have any other announcements for the good of the order before we adjourn? Okay. In that case, we're adjourned. See you tomorrow. We're going to have I guess I should say, we're going to have a very, very long public hearing tomorrow because the building efficiency segment of the greenhouse of the climate solutions package is going to be tomorrow. It's going to be the first bill we take up rather than the last bill. And so, bring your snack foods and everything, because it's going to be a long one. We're going to have a total of 101 witnesses for all the bills. So rest up, kids. And with that, we're adjourned. See you tomorrow.
Arrivederci.
Bye-bye.